Gurave Gaura Chanjaya Radhikaya Tadali Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadabhaktaya Namo Namaha Vancha Kalpatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhubheva Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Shri Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So I just wanted to do a quick video. This is not really an answer to a question, but it's really in relation to a discussion that we had on our nightly telephone conference last night. And I thought it might be nice for the larger circle of devotees, many who don't come on the phone conference per se, to also hear, especially because tomorrow, of course, is Sri Ram Nomi. Jai Shri Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman Ki Jai. But also something that I've had questions on in the past. And one of those questions, for instance, was because both Shri Krishna and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were eternal, which is a ridiculous question, because they're both eternal, but, you know, which one is first? I mean, like, how do you understand the order? So, that aside, it wasn't really a ridiculous question. It's actually an intelligent question, because I think the context of the question was, how do we understand that Krishna appears and then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Well, I'm going to extend that even a little further in the dynamics of understanding how the Leelas of Bhagavan unfold, in the sense that you have the Leela and the pastimes of Sri Ram, and then the pastimes of Krishna, and then the pastimes of Mahaprabhu. Also, of course, we know that Sri Ramachandra Bhagavan, he is called Maryada Purushottam. Maryada means etiquette or dharmic achar or dharmic behavior is executed by following certain standards and etiquette and so forth and so on. This is called Maryada. Someone can give a better translation, actually, of the word, if possible, in the comments. But he's called Maryada Purushottam because the Leela of Sri Ramchandra Bhagavan is dominated by Dharma. Ramachandra ji is the pinnacle of what is dharmic life. He was the perfect son. He was the perfect heir to a throne. He was the perfect husband. He was, you know, the perfect ideal of everything, especially the ideal of a king. He was the perfect king. He was the perfect husband. He took ekpatni brata, that he would dedicate himself fully and wholly to one wife. Though his father, Dasaratha, had 350 wives, of course, Kaikeyi, Kausalya, Sumitra, they were primary, but he had 350 wives. But Ram dedicated his life exclusively to one wife, ekpatni brata, right? So he was ideal in so many ways. And he always followed Dharma to the letter. When it was time for Sri Ramchandra ji, and of course tomorrow is Ram Nomi, so many of these topics will be discussed then. But when he was exiled to the forest, of course tomorrow we'll tell the backstory about that, but when he was exiled to the forest, he obeyed his father's wishes so that Dharma could be maintained. When it was heard from either a messenger, there's different stories told about it, either from a minister of Lord Ram who used to roam the kingdom to get the consensus of the people, or it says sometime Ram directly himself in disguise would roam his kingdom, and once he overheard a dobiwala, means a washerman, speak ill of the idea that Sita had spent time outside of the company of her husband and in the ashram of another person, meaning Ravan, right? Or in the kingdom of another person, meaning Ravan. So in order to execute Dharma, he again wanted to prove Sita's chastity by doing the Agni Pariksha. Agni Pariksha means the sort of test by fire. He had already done this before when he first had gone to Lanka and Sita was rescued. So of course we know at the final time that Lord Ram did the Agni Pariksha, Sita told after she was brought back from the ashram of Valmiki that if I have ever even thought or even in dreams of anyone except my husband, then may Mother Earth take me. And of course we know the outcome of that and the following times that happen after that, and eventually how Lord Ram ends his pastimes by entering the Sarayu, etc., etc. But here, the point is how these incarnations work in a succession in building rasa. So in the Maryada Purushottam Leela of Sri Ramchandra, then 2.5 rasas are primarily tasted, though the seeds of all the rasas are there. So 2.5 rasas mean Dasya Ras, Vatsalya Ras, and Gaurava Sakya Ras. Gaurava Sakya Ras means like Bibhishan, Sugriv. They are examples of Gaurava Sakya Ras. Means they know that Sri Ramchandra ji is Bhagavan, right? But still they have a sense of friendship with him. Not like Sri Ram, Subal, Ujjwal, Madhu Mangal, right? Who have Vishramba. Means they have no mood that Krishna is Bhagavan. Their friendship with Krishna is based on a intimacy that's not present in the friendship of Sugriva or Vibhishan, etc. So also, Lakshmanji, who's Baladev Tattva, appears as the younger brother of Sri Ram, which means that the ability to execute service unrestricted is not there. So you'll see this, I'm not going to discuss all the Ram Lila, but you'll see there are many cases when Lakshman, his enthusiasm to serve is quelled to some degree, right? Because he is the younger brother, right? So unlike in the following 2 incarnations, when he will come as the original Baladev Tattva, and then even as Sri Nityananda Prabhu, where he's older than Mahaprabhu for one, and also older than Krishna and Krishna Lila, and his ability to execute his desire to serve is unrestricted, right? Similarly, the Shakti of Bhagavan that appears in Ram Lila, Sita, right? Her ability to serve is based within the confines of Swakiyavad or Swakiya Rasa, means wedded dharmic marriage, right? So her ability to serve and satisfy all of the desires of Bhagavan, right, are also checked to some degree, right? So that could be another discussion if devotees want to ask more deeper about what is the difference between Swakiyavad, Parakiyavad, etc. It's another discussion. I'm just trying to keep a chain of thought here. So, because Sri Ramchandra Ji's Leela is dominated by Dharma, he is called Maryada Purushottam. On the other hand, Sri Krishna's Leela, he is called Leela Purushottam. So why is he called Leela Purushottam? Because in Krishna's incarnation, there are no restrictions on how Leela can be tasted. If you remember in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, in giving the explanation of the confidential reasons for the Lord's descent, right? Speaking about Mahaprabhu, but in context to also Krishna's incarnation, he mentions that Radha Krishna Sada Achayi Eki Swarup Leela Rasa Asudite Dhare Dui Rup. That the reason that the Lord, who is Atmaramata, he is self-satisfied, has taken 2 forms, is to enjoy the experience of Pararamata, it's called. Para means others. So now the Lord enjoys the experience through the medium of Leela. He tastes various kinds of rasa in combination of his own internal potency becoming a separate form, and the Lord himself taking the position which is called Vishaya Jatya. Vishaya Jatya means he's the object of love. And the Ashraya Jatya, Srimati Radhika, she is the repository of love. So in this way, by this dynamic of Vishaya and Ashraya, right, because I'm again not giving a class on nectar of devotion here or anything, but these are the ingredients that make up what is called rasa, right? Alamban, Udipan, right, etc. So the Alamban means Vishaya Jatya and Ashraya Jatya, right? So I'm explaining that because this is the understanding of what makes up rasa. So Krishna tastes this rasa through various leelas. And in the Braj Leela of Sri Krishna, all the rasas are tasted, both Gaun Ras and Mukhya Ras. So Mukhya Ras means all the 5 primary rasas, but of course in Braj, only really Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya Rasa are prominent. Dasya Rasa really does not exist in Braj, because even those who have the position of Dasya Rasa, like Patrak, Ratrak, etc., they really consider themselves to be servants of Nanda Maharaj, not Krishna. Right? Krishna, he has no ability to employ servants. So they consider we are servants of Nanda Bhava. And therefore they render various services to Krishna under that auspices. Right? So there's also no Santaras in Braj, because all of the things which by Tattva we identify with Santarasa, in Braj, their actual expression towards Krishna takes the role of Sakya Rasa, or more like Vatsalya Rasa, right? Like the trees, for instance. They consider that they should give nourishment to Krishna by their fruits, and they should give shade to Krishna by their branches, and they should give a resting place to Krishna by their roots and by the foundation of the trees. So sometimes their mood is more like Vatsalya Rasa or Sakya Rasa. And similarly, even the stones in Vrindavan, they act in such a way that, like if you go to Bojantali, where Krishna used to put his lunch down, and so forth and so on. So they act as sort of friends to reciprocate with Krishna doing his many leelas, like Gocharan Leela, like he's taking the cows out. So really in Braj, the 3 rasas prominent are Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya Rasa, right? But all rasas are present there in Tattva, but in Rasa Vichar, those 3 are prominent, right? But when Krishna leaves to go to Mathura, then even the Gaun rasas are tasted, like chivalry, like Adbhut, Jugupsta, all the various secondary rasas, 7 in number, they're also tasted, right? Because there's the verse quoted when Krishna enters into the wrestling arena, and there our acharyas have said all the 12 rasas will manifest, right? So Krishna is called Leela Purushottam. But again, there is a situation here where to taste Leela, it requires 2 categories, the Vishaya Alamban and Ashraya Alamban. Therefore, in the position of the Vishaya Alamban, Krishna cannot understand, though he's able to taste, he's unable to understand the dynamic of the praying which gives rise to the various tastes that are existing in the rasa. He becomes enchanted and curious about the nature of that praying. How is it that this love of Srimati Radhika, Shri Radha Pranaya Mahima Kitraso Vaneva, how is this pranay, how is this love of Radhika so amazing that I cannot even digest and understand some of it? Like the praying Vaichitya of Radhika. When Radhika is sitting on Krishna's lap at Prem Sarovara and Madhumangal chases one bumblebee away, and Radhika experiences separation, though she's literally sitting on the lap of Krishna. Also, during the Van Vihar in Gopi Geet, when Krishna and Radhika have now met and they're separated from all other gopis and they're going from one forest to another, and then Radhika declares, "Oh, I'm tired. If you wish to continue, you should carry me." And then, of course, Krishna says, "Okay, then simply climb onto my back." At that time, one Sanchari Bhav overwhelmed Radhika and she became filled with lajja, means shyness. And so she closed her eyes as she reached for Krishna, and simply by closing her eyes, she thought Krishna had disappeared. And therefore, again, she began to manifest the symptoms of praying Vaichitya. So though she's in Krishna's presence, she experiences separation. Krishna himself hid in the bushes to observe the ecstatic nature of this mood. So Krishna's curiosity, what is the nature of this praying? How are my 4 kinds of Madhuri, Venu Madhuri, Rupa Madhuri, Prem Madhuri, Leela Madhuri, how are they experienced, and hence the happiness derived from them, experienced by Srimati Radhika in the position of Ashraya Jatiya? So all of these curiosities arise in the heart of Krishna while he's Leela Purushottam, while he's tasting the essence of Leela, right? Now, this gives rise to a desire That desire is to taste what is praying. He's seeing praying experienced in the Leela and is tasting rasa as a result of that praying in the Leela, but he can't taste the essence of the praying itself. Radhika is the very essence of the praying. Ladini Sara Bhav, Bhav, what is it? Ladini Sara Prem, Prem Sara Bhav, Bhav Panokostanam, Mahabhav, Mahabhav Swarupini Shri Radha Thakurani. Srimati Radhika herself is a personification of that prem in its highest manifestation of Madanakya Mahabhav. So Krishna has now curiosity, what is the nature of that prem and how will I experience it? So now in the next sequel, Krishna himself comes dedicated to the idea of tasting the mood of praying that's inherent in Srimati Radhika. And therefore he comes in the form of Radha and Krishna combined. Rasaraj and Mahabhav in one form, this is called Mahaprabhu. So now, in that incarnation, he is not called Marada Purushottam, he is not called Lila Purushottam, he is called Prem Purushottam. So here, his entire Leela is based around tasting praying. Now, last night on the phone conference, we also were digesting among all the devotees. This is why the phone conference, I think, is such a wonderful thing. Because it allows the devotees a chance to share, right? All the different things they're reading and understanding and whatever Srila Gurudev has put in their patra, means put in their hearts, as far as realizations and understanding are concerned. It allows devotees to speak and exchange. So last night in our dialogue and speaking and exchanging, it gave rise to understanding the importance of Harinam in this regard. So how is it how is it that the understanding of Harinam becomes increased? How is it that Mahaprabhu is finally able to taste what is the mood of Radhika? What is the principal activity in the Leela of Mahaprabhu? It is Harinam. This is the principal mechanism of how Mahaprabhu is tasting what is the mood of Radhika. So Harinam is the prominent Leela of Gauranga Mahaprabhu, and therefore that Leela that manifests in Gauranga Mahaprabhu is the Leela of tasting the Prem. In Krishna's Leela, Prem is the substance, but the Leela is what is being tasted, and the rasa inherent in the Leela. But now in Mahaprabhu's Leela, it's been distilled to the fact that the real essence of the taste of rasa is in the prem itself. And therefore, even if there's not a huge variety of Leelas, right, by coming in the form of Radha and Krishna combined, they can taste the essence of rasa, right? Just like Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami mentioned, Prema rasa niryas korite ashwadan. They're tasting the essence of Prem Ras through Harinam. So Harinam Sankirtan now is the dominant Leela. And Harinam Sankirtan is also Ras Leela. Samyak Saravasana Krishnera Rasa Leela. Samyak Saravasana Krishnera Rasa Leela. In the Ramananda Samvad, Ramananda Roy was telling to Mahaprabhu, this Ras Leela is the pinnacle of all Leelas of Krishna. That Rasa Leela descended into the courtyard of Srivas as Kirtan Ras Leela. So through Harinam Kirtan, right, the devotees are able to taste the intensity of Braj Ras Leela in the Kirtan at Srivas Angan. So now Mahaprabhu himself tasting the essence of Prem Ras, he invites all the devotees from all the previous incarnations, including Ramachandra's Leela, to come into Gaur Leela, Prem Naeva Gopa Ramanam Kamam Ityagamat Pratam, Udava Adayo Pietan Vajanti Bhagavat Priya. He invites all the devotees from previous incarnations to come into Gaur Leela, and in the Kirtan Rasa predominated by Sri Harinam, they can taste the essence of the intensity of all of the rasa that's manifest in the Ras Leela. Therefore, Mahaprabhu's Leela is called Prem Purushottam Lila. It is all about tasting Prem. Now, we also discussed Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, therefore, Mahaprabhu, let me get to one other point first. In the 20th chapter of Antya Lila, after Mahaprabhu in the 19th chapter has received a coded poem from Advaita Acharya that it was time for him to close his Lila, Mahaprabhu completely became internal in the Gambhira. And though he had written, if you read in Chaitanya Charitamrita, he had written the Shishashtakam earlier, and that was to be the basis. These 8 shlokas were to be the basis of how to practice bhakti. Right? All centered around Harinam. In the Gambhira, in the 20th chapter, Mahaprabhu then recites Shishashtakam while tasting the varieties of rasa inherent there from the perspective of the mood of Radhika. So one time, a long time ago, we did a class explaining about the nature of understanding Shishashtakam via that mode. Understanding how Mahaprabhu, when reciting it, was tasting the various moods of Srimati Radhika. If you read in the 20th chapter of Anchalila, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is giving the outline of how these various moods were coming in the heart of Mahaprabhu. Right? Now, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, to help all sadhaks to understand the connection, right, between Srinam, the revelations of Shishashtakam, and Krishna's Leela, right, he wrote Bhajan Rahasya. So the Rahasya of Bhajan life is that Harinam is the revelation, right, of what Mahaprabhu was reciting as Shishashtakam and what mood he gave expression to in the pinnacle of the realization of Shishashtakam in the 20th chapter of Antya Lila. Also, that same Shishashtakam, Shishashtakam and Harinam is the unfoldment of the Ashtakaliya Lila of Sri Krishna. So Harinam, then we discussed, was the basis of everything. It is the pinnacle of the transition of rasa from Maryada Purushottam Shri Ram Lila in Krishna Lila Purushottam, where all the Leelas are fully manifest and all the rasas are tasted in some way, form, or fashion. And then the essence of all Leelas, the essence of rasa itself, which is praying, is tasted, especially in Gaur Lila, and the mechanism by which it is tasted is Sri Harinam. So we are so fortunate in this particular, because another discussion came up, and that was about the reversal of the ages. You will find there's some Indologists and some, quote, Hindu scholars and so forth, which may have different opinions about the reversal of the ages. And what I'm speaking about is part of the description of why the transition of rasa has gone the way it has, where Ramachandra ji appears first, and then Krishna, and then Mahaprabhu in the ages of Treta, Dwarpa, and Kali, right? Even Srila Prabhupada wrote in one purport to Srimad Bhagavatam that the ages were reversed, right? And in the Ramayana, I think it's in the Balakanda Ramayana, also in the Brahma Vaivarta Purana, the story of Ahalya is told. So of course Ahalya literally means someone who has no trace of anything that takes away from beauty. So Ahalya means who is the most beautiful, right? She was entrusted to Gautam Rishi, and of course, I'm not telling that whole story, but Gautam Rishi, right, once came and suspected that some illicit activity had happened between Indra and Ahalya. There's so many details to that, so that's a separate discussion. But, and in realizing that, Gautam Rishi gave a curse to Ahalya, that she should turn into stone. And of course, by the pleas of the son of Ahalya, in some Puranas it's mentioned, some mentioned by the plea of Ahalya herself, Gautam Rishi's heart softened, and he said, well, when Sri Ramachandra ji appears in the Treta Yuga and touches you, at that time you'll be relieved from this curse. So Srila Prabhupada mentions that if the cycle of the ages, because this happened in Satya Yuga, if the cycle of the ages goes according to, because in Sanskrit, Dwarpa literally means 2, and Treta, the root of that, means 3. So if you took that understanding, then Satya Yuga is the first age, Dwarpa Yuga would be the second age, Treta Yuga would be the third age, and then Kali, right? But if she was cursed in Satya Yuga, and Dwarpa Yuga had to pass before Ramachandraji would appear, then that would be an extremely long time. So it was understood that there was an appeal made for the mercy of Gautam Rishi, and so he said, okay, I'll give you the mercy that the ages can be reversed, right? And that Ramchandra would appear earlier. So therefore Ramchandraji appears and in the Treta Yuga, which is now the second age after Satya, and then Dwarpa and then Kali, right? So there's sometimes debate about this. You know, I accept because our Gaudiya Acharyas have accepted, then I have unquestionably accepted, right? But I'm just saying you can find debate on this idea of the ages being reversed in some academic circles and other places. Now, that is not the only reason, however, the cursing of Ahalya for the ages to be reversed. But what I just spoke about would be more prominent as a reason. And that is for the unfoldment of the rasa from Maryada Purushottam Shri Ram's Leela to Leela Purushottam Krishna's Leela to Prem Purushottam Mahaprabhu's Leela. Now this is very unique because Mahaprabhu appears as the combined form of Radha and Krishna only once in a day of Brahma, in the 28th cycle of the Mahayugas, when they go around 1,000 times called the Mahayuga, right? Once in every day of Brahma, Krishna appears, and then after that comes the combined form of Radha and Krishna in the form of Mahaprabhu. In every Kali Yuga, the Yuga avatar comes as Gaura Narayan. And still Nam Sankirtan is the Yuga Dharma. But here Vaikuntha Nama Asesha Agaharam Vidu. This Vaikuntha Nam gives liberation. But the uniqueness about the one day of Brahma in which Mahaprabhu appears after Shri Krishna's Leela as Radha and Krishna combined, it is called the Danya Kali, is that Chiraratadam Nijaguptavitam Swanama Premamrita Atyudhara. That Sri Harinam is imbued with the sweetness of the highest type of praying. So it doesn't only relieve one from sins and gives liberation, but it can give the highest thing. Unata ujwala rasa sobhakti sriyam. Mahaprabhu said, Anarpita chirim chirat karunavatirna kalo. For a long time I've not given this. So now coming in this day of Brahma, he will give, wrapped in Harinam, infused in Harinam, the sweet nectar of praying at the highest caliber, right? The highest caliber for any jiva is to be able to serve the Unata Ujwala Rasa of Sri Radha and Krishna. So this Swabhakti Sriyam here indicates Manjari Bhav, Palya Dasi Bhav, right? So that is what's given in Harinam in this Danya Kali. So therefore, Mahaprabhu became Prem Purushottam, and the way that the rasa evolves from Ramachandra's Leela, Krishna's Leela to Mahaprabhu is very significant. And also, the importance of how Sri Nam, right, now becomes the vehicle for facilitating all of that. So then how powerful is Sri Nam? Mahaprabhu himself wrote in Shashtakam, Nam Namakari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shakti. All Shakti, everything is present in Sri Harinam. So just something we discussed on the phone conference, and it was so enlivening, I thought I wanted to share it with the devotees at large, because many, obviously that may be here on Facebook are not on the phone conference. Of course, you're welcome to come to the phone conference. If you inbox me, I will send you information about the phone conference. We always give some dandavat to Sriman Bhumipati Prabhu in New York, because he has been the stalwart maintainer and facilitator of the phone conference for 18 years. So that's called steadiness in service. So, of course, many other devotees have also assisted and helped in so many ways, but, he's been the stalwart to hold down that conference and make it happen. So on Monday nights, usually he's allowed me to facilitate it as a question and answer session. And we had this discussion last night. I just thought it was really, really nice. One last point that came up last night, then Sriman Sahadev Prabhu, we were quoting the verse, and he added the third line, which is very important. that not only has Harinam been given as a facilitation of all these things we just talked about, but apamra yovita taragora. Apamra means, and it has become available to the most unqualified, lowly, Jagai and Madai status beings of Kali Yuga. So the miracle is further enhanced by that fact that not only Harinam gives the highest thing, right? It is the entrance through Gaur Lila into Krishna Lila, right? But it is also the experience of Krishna himself realizing and tasting the essence of praying by having the mood of Srimati Radhika. So that's one thing. And then secondly, of course, through Gaur Lila, Gaurangera Rashonave Shetaranga Jeve Dube Shirada Madhavantaranga. By entering deeply into Gaur Lila, one will come up in the Antaranga of the Lila of Radha Madhav. Right? So all of these things being facilitated by Harinam now should give great inspiration to taking Harinam with such deep, as Raghunath Das Goswami mentioned, atitaram apurvata. In other words, a kind excessive attachment, right? Apurvata, that you have never previously had for anything else. So he says, our Guru given mantra, Shri Harinam, right, should be taken with an unprecedented rati that we've not had for anything else. So if this inspires to some degree that attempt to do that, then, you know, Srila Gurudev, I consider, has bestowed some kripa on me to be able to discuss this thing, right? And I'm also praying that that kripa will shower on me so I can also now take so much deeper mood of Harinam, right? Because now we're realizing the glory of Harinam is so expansive, right? Because this whole narrative we've just given, the essence of it comes as the prominent Leela of Gaur Leela, which is Harinam Sankirtan. Jai. So, Shri Ramchandra, Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki Jai. Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Yugal ki Jai. Jai Shri Sachinandan Gaur Hari ki Jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Vancha Kalpaturvescha Kripasindhu Vevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.